Welcome back to another video. In this video we'll be talking about trend lines and how you could trade buying or selling using trend lines. So as we can see, the first example we'll be using, and we'll be looking at Bitcoin, is the example that I had given you guys on the trade signal that that Bitcoin was a buy at 63,900, and I said that we would have to wait for a break of this trend line, right? Which eventually happened over here. And it was before this move actually happened. Here the trend line was still respected, but once there was a break and a retest, we saw the push up as a breakout trade. But I want to show you guys that you cannot always just rely on trend lines. This video is not to show you guys that you only use trend lines to trade, to enter trades. Your trading should always be confluence trade. That's the trading method, trading style I use. I just don't rely on one thing. It's like for example, trend lines. And I'll show you examples why it's not right. Because sometimes if we look at this example, we could put it here. Let's say this mark is not, like, you don't know what's going on, right? You draw this trend line, is 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and you finally get the break. You finally get the break of the trend line here, right? So you would say, okay, there's a break of trend line, I would sell. But what happened? Yeah, it didn't, right? Here's a false breakout, and it came to the zone, and then it didn't respect this, so the trend line becomes invalid, right? It's always important to know when and where you draw your trend lines, right? And it's not always going to be perfect, but as long as you stick to your analysis, that's one of the more important things you have to learn to do. The more you begin to trade and take it seriously, you have to trust your analysis, and you have to live and die with it. And once you start doing that is when you become a better trader. Like, for example, here there's different types of trend lines. You can use trend lines as resistance, as we did over here. It acted as resistance, and once we see the resistance be broken, we buy, right? But it can also be used as support, as we can see here. 1, 2, 3. It just never broke under, so it kept making it signals for buys, right? Let's say, for example, if we were in here in this trade, we could be selling the market, and trading is always about risks. Let's say it would have reached here again, just based on just pure trend lines, right? You could have sold here, and it'd be okay. You'd take the loss. But what would happen once you see the break and a retest? That's when you're supposed to be smart. Take the loss. That's where a lot of people mess up. They think it maybe like what happened here, a false breakout will happen, and it'll just reverse. And then we stick to the trade, when we clearly see that it's done a full break. It's done everything we need to see that it's going the opposite direction. In that case, we were supposed to get out and switch our sales to buys and catch on the move. Remember, we always try to follow the trend. Sometimes, and the steeper the trend line is, it's really difficult to follow. For example, let's say over here, this was not that steep. We can see here, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. Once there's a break, we could sell. Still does not mean it's going to be a downtrend, because we can see that it eventually kept going up. But trend lines are a good way to maybe find a good entry to a trade. But don't always try to look at the bigger picture when creating trend lines. Don't try to create trend lines here. Although you may catch a little move, don't try to find those. Always try to find major zones, like over here, right? Or begin over here, like how we said, as support. If and what's nice about this is that it will follow. So let's say from here in a week, Bitcoin just consolidates. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It could happen. It could consolidate between these channels that have drawn over here. And if it were to consolidate and come to this trend line, that's where we could see major price moves. It could act as support and keep bouncing up from there, or it could break and change the trend direction as well. But yeah, that's basically it about trend lines. Just always be smart about where you are drawing your trend lines. Always try to draw trend lines on higher time frames. And yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions, we can see here. Although we see the break here and a retest, you could buy. You'd be in profit. So it's a win. It's a risk-free trade if you use stop loss correctly. It doesn't mean it's going to change it, because you have to always look at the trend as well. If we look here, it's starting to become an uptrend, right? But if we look at the overall trend, it's a downtrend from there. So we can't. You always have to look at different reasons why you enter trades. You see here, we could see that it was doing downtrends. It still did not break structure with this lower high. This one, it respected it and it continued the downtrend. It was here when it decided to finally change direction, and it is where we're at now. And if you remember, in the last video I made yesterday, I said it was around here. I said we can see Bitcoin finding new support at 66,300, and it's what we're seeing right now. It came to find support, and again today in the morning, and it seems like hopefully it keeps holding that as support, but we will see what happens next. If you guys have any questions or any other video ideas or anything you guys would want me to go through, leave it down in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. See you guys on the next one.